Hey, this is Cam with Blacktail Studio, and this week I'm going to show you how I make my wooden meat mallets. And you can see I had quite a few different styles there. I had some purple heart, I had some catalosh, had some white oak, and this video is going to be just on the white oak mallets. And I'm going to have a few tidbits from the other mallets in here, but I'm going to show you how to make those white oak ones step by step. Like a lot of woodworking projects, it all starts with good flat wood. And I went to the joiner, got it flat on one side, moved over to the planer, going to get just nice dimensional lumber there. And you can see it's about 7/8 of an inch thick. Bringing it over to my table saw to rip the pieces for my mallet glue up. And this is basically going to be a wood mallet, which you can see some other videos out there. I actually have a video on making a detail mallet, but it's essentially just a woodworking mallet. And this is going to be very similar to that, only with this meat tenderizer face. So stick around a little bit later. I'm going to show you how to get that cool meat tenderizer face on your mallet. I'm going to cut this a little bit oversized so I can cut the entire mallet head down to the exact size that I want. So don't be too obsessed with getting your dimensions exactly like mine. The mallet handle, you can go straight off what I did here if you want. If you want a little bit wider handle, or if you want to do a template one like some of my other mallets had, feel free to do that. But don't feel like you have to follow this exactly to the letter. You can make it your own. I'll explain in just a minute why I'm doing this 1 to 2 degree cut, but before that, I wanted to show you how I make these shortcuts on my miter saw. The miter saw is a little more dangerous than a table saw, in my opinion, so I try to do it hands-free whenever I can. You can see I have the hold down there, so I can do this without even touching it. You can see why I made this cut there. You see how they don't quite meet up, and that is when we do our through tenon, it's going to be wedged in there super tight. And I found it easier to not cut any off of these yet. I just leave them overlap because I'll just cut the entire thing down after the glue up. The important thing is you want to make sure that mallet handle will fit in there. So we got it lined up, and now I'm going to clamp it all the way down. I saw this kind of neat trick to use a straw to get the glue out of your corner joint so that way you don't get stuck trying to chisel it out. I think I actually saw this little wedge jig on Instagram too, so feel free to check me out on Instagram. I don't just steal things from other people. I also contribute a little bit there, but this is a really simple, easy way to cut nice, precise wedges. Pretty easy, right? And if this is your first time to one of my videos, welcome. I really appreciate you watching. If you like what you see here, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out, enables me to make more videos in the future just like this. And you can see now why it didn't really matter if I left those pieces long or not. A lot simpler just to cut it down, make them perfectly flush this way. And I'm doing a similar trick with a hands-free cutting like I did before, but moving on to the mallet face now. And this is probably what you guys are most interested about, is you may have seen a mallet already made, but you probably haven't seen a meat mallet made before. The first thing I wanted to do was make sure that it was perfectly square, and that's going to make it a lot easier to line my grid up on my router table. And I'll show you in just a second what I mean by that. But what I'm doing now is just making sure I have a nice square mallet face. And luckily my saw stop can just barely make that cut. This isn't exactly textbook, but it worked pretty well. I was finding the exact center of my router bit there, and then I was going to slide it over and then back it off just a little bit, and this is going to be what gives me the right distance for my first cut. And I learned this by making a little sample piece that you see there. But I make one cut, flip it around, make a second cut, and because it's square, I want to be able to flip it 90 degrees now and make the same cut and get the same results. You do want to go pretty slow. Sometimes it helps to make 2 passes depending on your router and your bit. There you go. And now I'm just going to find the center of it. I'm going to make one swipe down the middle. Lining it up this way. I'm not using my fence as a measurement. I'm just lining it straight up with the center of the bit. And again, because it's square, I can flip it 90, make the same cut, and get the same results. And it is as simple as that. If you're wanting to try this project out for yourself, I made a couple different styles, and I did find that I liked that cove bit better than this style here, but I wanted to do something just a little bit different and test it out. In the end, it might depend on the type of meat or food that you're using this kitchen mallet on. There's probably a purpose for this style too, but I didn't like it quite as much. It's a little bit harder to clean too, which was also kind of a hassle. Similar process though, just making a grid. I did think that style looked a little cooler, so if you're doing it for a gift, might be a little bit cooler gift to make. Just not quite as functional in my opinion. Kind of neat looking though. It seems like whether it's for a table or a kitchen mallet, I always find myself using this 1/8 inch roundover bit. It is probably the most versatile bit in my collection. Just gives a nice professional rounded edge, a lot better than hand sanding in my opinion. This is going to be a pretty standard wedge tenon here, and this is how I make my cuts for this. I've done it on a bandsaw before. I find this is a little bit more accurate and a little more finished looking. Make my first cut. It's kind of a nerve-wracking cut. You don't want that thing to fly or fall off. But if you flip it around without moving your stop there, you can get a perfectly symmetrical cut. Again, just one of those hands-free cuts that you're going to want to make. This was for my edge profile, and no wrong way to do this. I mean, there's wrong ways to use a router table, but no wrong bit you can choose here. I think it's a 3/8 inch roundover bit, which is just kind of a nice, comfortable grip. For the other one, I did this really kind of weird style just to be a little bit different. Wasn't probably as comfortable as the roundover bit, but it was just a little more interesting looking. Because I made, I think, 5 different kitchen mallets, I'd love to hear in the comments your opinions on which one do you like most, and if you liked a certain head, like maybe you like the purple heart head, but you like this white oak handle, let me know which one do you like best, because I make these from time to time, usually as Christmas gifts, or I sell them occasionally, but I would love to hear from you which ones you thought were the best overall kitchen mallets. Anytime you're sanding small objects like this, it's really helpful to throw your orbital sander in your wood vise. And for God's sakes, don't clamp it too hard, but just get it nice and snug. It helps if you have a little bit of cushion. You can put a towel in there if you're worried about crushing it, but it makes it a lot easier. And then I went on to the face of the mallets and just hand sanded out those coves as the best I could. I continued to sand these to 150 grit on the faces of them, and then I went and tuned up these handles with my wood rasp set. I think these are Gramercy. I'll include links to everything in the video description, so if there's something you saw in the video and you want to purchase it, I'll have links so you can get a little bit more detail on all of that. But anyway, back to the handle. Just doing a test fit here. This one was pretty snug, just about where I wanted it. Sometimes they're a little looser than others. That's just about perfect for me though. The painter's tape is just going to help any glue that runs out. It makes it a lot easier to remove. And there's no good reason why I am staining or actually dyeing this oak handle black. I just think it looks cool. And this is trans tint alcohol. And again, I'll have links to this in the video description too, so you can make your own black dye. Much better than any stain you can buy. I lost my footage somehow of attaching the mallet head, so this is epoxy on a different mallet. And I like epoxy a little bit better. It just seems to fill the little micro gaps better than wood glue, but wood glue would still be perfectly acceptable. Don't pound it too hard, you'll break your mallet head apart. Just want it nice and snug. And if you're wondering, this wood is catalosh. It's like 3 times harder than walnut or maple. It's super good for mallets. This is obviously a day later after the glue or epoxy had dried. Sanded it with my oscillating belt sander, came there. There's still a little bit of glue ooze out, even though I had it taped. Removed that, continued sanding it all the way up to 150, and I'm using Odie's oil, and I like Odie's oil because it gives a really good food-safe finish, and that's what these are obviously going to be used for. And when you're working Odie's oil in, it helps to get some friction. That's why I'm using this gray Scotch-Brite pad. It's also called a gray non-woven pad, and it works really well to get a good bond. And Odie's oil can be a little bit finicky for tabletops. Some people have a lot of success with it. I haven't had a ton of success with the tabletops, but for cutting boards and things like this, it's my absolute favorite finish to use. If you're wondering why I chose the woods that I chose for these kitchen mallets, I liked the white oak because it possesses a lot of natural antimicrobial properties, which is why it's a really common cutting board material. So it will definitely make an excellent kitchen mallet. It's also super hard, super dense, so it's going to pack enough weight to really put an impact on that meat or whatever you're using it for. And buffing off, use only these terry towels, these cotton terry towels. You can also use cut up like old towels, but you need to buff every last bit of that Odie's oil off. For the test, I went with this super tough tri-tip, and it was quite a mean piece of meat, but you can see here using the cove part got a lot better impact on the meat than using the square part, in my opinion. This handle, or excuse me, this mallet wasn't quite as heavy, so it didn't quite do as much damage as some of the bigger mallets, the heavier mallets, but those cove points really dig into the meat and worked pretty well. This one was kind of ridiculous. I thought it was kind of cool, but you can see those tips on the end, and the first time I used it, it broke. But there you have it. There is my entire meat mallet lineup. Purple Heart, Catalosh, White Oak. Let me know in the comments which one you like best, and if you're wondering how hard it was going to be to clean up, just soap and water. That's why Odie's oil is so good for this. You can see the water just beads right off. I wanted to ask you guys a couple questions, and you can feel free to answer in the comments. Is one, which was your favorite mallet? Maybe you like the curly maple with that dark Catalosh head, or maybe you like this Purple Heart with the brass pins. But also, would you use a wooden mallet on meat? Some people get a little bit creeped out using wood cutting boards with meat, for instance, and there's a kind of a heated topic that goes back and forth on if it's acceptable and is plastic better and which is which. So I'd love to hear in the comments your opinions on that. And as always, I really appreciate everybody who makes it this far. I know a 12-minute video is an eternity in today's social media world, so I do appreciate you guys that made it this far. If I left anything out, if you have any questions on anything I used in here, please don't hesitate to ask me in the comments. I'm really good about answering every single one of those. And just give it a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe. All that helps me keep making more content in the future. Thanks again.